I think this conference is a testament to the revolution that our practice sales development is going through. And I see it pretty much everywhere. I see it in the amount of focus that companies are putting into sales development, into resources supporting sales development. I see it in the amount of companies, product services that are built around to support the sales development practice. I see it around the number of LinkedIn recruiters who are reaching out and trying to gauge interest. So it is here. It's not in the future. It's not coming. It's here, and it's here to stay. And I'm really excited to have, stumbled upon this practice a couple of years ago, because my background has been in product. Half of my career has been in product and in sales, and I'm really excited to have had the opportunity to lead the sales development and now also inside sales practice at Okta. And what I wanted to do over the next few minutes, 25 minutes or so, is to share some of the learnings that we've had growing the team to what it is today. But the one other thing I wanted to say about sales development is that I think it's clear that more and more companies are really investing and putting a lot of effort in sales development. And why is that? It's because, guess what? Companies are realizing that in order to close revenue, they need quality pipeline. Shocker, but it wasn't a known or an area of emphasis for a really long time. And what I found is that quality pipeline is not something that you can drive or achieve by counting solely on the AEs who are so busy chasing revenue, right? They're not gonna build that pipeline machine. And it's not something that you can achieve by just hiring a group of people and handing them a phone and hoping that things will sort themselves out. It requires a thoughtful strategy and leadership and a very detailed process and a number of people and supporting groups to help make that practice successful. So these are some of my insights, and I'll be going into a little more detail later on. So this is a picture. I love this picture. It's from our last sales kickoff, and we had it here at the Hyatt. And this is our team, and we realized that we said, hey, let's get a group picture, and we realized that none of the breakout rooms was big enough to get everyone and still take a picture, so we had to actually go up on the main stage. So, in my short tenure as a sales development leader at Okta, and in the first 12 months in that capacity, we doubled in size from approximately 45 people to close to 100 that we are today. We opened new offices, so we're HQ'd in San Francisco. We opened our new DC office, and that handles all of the East Coast. We have a team in EMEA out in London. We have a team in Sydney, and we're growing really, really fast. During that first year, we promoted about 30 people, and obviously the classic track is to move into a sales closing role. But one of the trends that I'm seeing is that a lot of people are actually, they come into sales because it's a great place to start, but then they realize that, guess what, there's so many other opportunities at the company, and so we open new roles and we open new tracks. So I now have people who moved into demand generation and channel selling and education services and ops. So that's been pretty exciting, and there's nothing more satisfying and gratifying. I know that the tendency is to keep your top performers with you, but In my experience, it's just best to, to set them free after they've done their service and see them succeed elsewhere in the company. We increased our call volume by 2x. This was an area of focus because we weren't hitting the phone as much, so I can talk about that. We experimented with new roles. We opened a series of team lead roles focused on ops, focused on marketing. We launched a channel SDR role. We started the inside sales practice. We called it associate account executive. And piloting all these different roles that can help us as a team become more productive and more effective. And then we delivered a beep ton of pipeline. So we also learned a lot. It's been an incredible journey and an amazing experience, but also quite, humbling at times, stressful, you name it. We've been through all of it. And what I wanted to do today is to share a couple of the key learnings with you, and and I try to make it as practical as possible because I know many of you here are growing your teams at the moment. This industry is where this practice is exploding, so I wanted to make it practical, and I tried to keep it also relevant for those who are growing from 1 to 5 or from 5 to 10. As well as to those who are growing from 50 to 100. Just by a show of hands before I start, how many are managers here? Okay, good. SDRs? Great. Anyone else? Okay, pretty good. All right, so let's start with the first one. My first learning and insight is that you have to talk to everyone. What do I mean by that? When I first got into this role, the team was already established. We had about 45 people in role. I literally spent time with each and every one of the SDRs globally, all of them, and I spent a good half an hour with each of them. I think there is, some people say if you want to learn how to fly, it's not just you just don't just read through the manual. You need to have a certain number of hours just, practicing and talking to people and understanding the landscape before you can actually board the plane. And so this is extremely important because there are things that you're not going to learn from, talking to just the managers or just the account executives. These are the people that come in every day, grinding, hustling, seeing the challenges, and you start getting all that feedback, and you start mentally bucketing them into different areas. So really important. I wouldn't skip it. I would spend as much time as needed. If you need follow-ups, do the follow-ups. And it also helps, especially if you come as a new leader to the org, it helps the people to get to know you. It's very important for the SDRs to know that they're not just a number. There's a person, managing that team. That person cares about them, about their progression, about their success. So very important. Obviously, talk to your directs. They've been running the team for a while. They can provide you with some insight, at a little bit of a higher level. Obviously, you'll be spending a lot more time with them over the course of the coming days, weeks, months. Your customers are your AEs. And again, it's a very, very broad group and a lot of different personalities. I would encourage spending a lot of time with them. One key insight, for example, that I learned from my conversations with the AEs at the time was turnover is killing us. Turnover is killing us. I spoke to one of my most tenured account executives, and he said, well, in the past 4 years, I had maybe 8 SDRs. So that already, I'm thinking about it from my, what do I need to fix? What do I need to work on? What are the big problems that I need to solve? And I already know, okay, if I want to be able to, promote people and minimize the impact on pipeline, I gotta get them up and running quickly. I gotta get them productive, and I gotta work on a process. Something here is broken. If your sales development team is doing both inbound and outbound, like ours, you have to spend a lot of time understanding all the different demand gen functions, events, campaigns, advertising, all the different functions that will bring you leads, and try to get ahead and understand their plans, their metrics, what are they goaled on, and it's very important that everybody is in alignment, everybody is working towards the same goal. Anyone else who interacts with your group, and I'll be talking about this a little bit later on, and then peers in other companies. I can't state enough how the brain sharing with some of my peers and some people are sitting here in the audience has been very helpful, because guess what? You don't know it all, and there's always new things to learn and grow. With all these people, there's a list of 100 questions you probably want to ask, but I would start with one, and that is, how can I help you? How can I help you? And then just let them talk, and then you'll start learning about what are the things that are top of mind for them, and what can you do to improve the process. All right, the next one is get dedicated support where possible. That, when handling exceptional growth or even a little growth, there are 9 functions that are extremely critical to the success of your team. Enablement, right? You're hiring people, you got to get them enabled, you got to get them up and running. Recruiting, right? You gotta search for candidates, you gotta screen them, you gotta interview them, you gotta make an offer, you gotta decide which band they're gonna fall under, and so on. HR, for those who run teams, they know that the HR are very busy working with sales development. There's always things going on, and just by nature, right? We're not an engineering team or a marketing team where people come in and stay for 3, 4, 5 years, right? It's an in and out. It's a machine. You have to work it, and you have to work it efficiently in order to get the most out of the folks on your team, and then move them on. Operations, right? There's so much data that goes into this, and I'm going to be talking about that later. Commissions. People need to get paid, right? It's important. So, you have to have dedicated support. You have to have people helping you. Systems, workplace, someone coming in, do they have their computer? Do they have everything they need to get productive, on day one? Finance, to help you manage your budget. And what can you go over here? Or how can you need more budget? When do you make the ask? And then executive champion, which is probably one of the most important things, and I'll talk about that in a second. These 9 functions are, like I said, so critical to the success of your growth, and so I would highly encourage you to do anything that you can to get people supporting you in all those different functions, because what it means is that if you don't get it, it means that you have to do it yourself. And let me tell you, it is a major, major time suck if you have to, train every single one of the SDRs, if you have to outbound and find new candidates, if you have to go over commissions and make sure everybody got paid correctly, if you have to analyze your own data at all times, if you have to figure out why a lead was routed incorrectly and what's broken in the system. There's so many things that that make this group of people so critical to you. So if you want to avoid that, and let the experts handle it. And when you find those people, and I realize that some companies are still smaller, and you have maybe just one enablement person or one recruiter, just make sure you get a carved portion of what they do and have them being committed to you. It doesn't need to be, I have my own enablement person and I have a team of pipeline operations working with us. But even if you can get 20% of someone's time, that makes a huge difference. And when you do, make sure that their MBOs or commitments are tied to the success of your team, right? It's not just, oh, okay, so-and-so will support me, but make sure it's engraved in their performance, in their success, so that, again, you have to make that alignment, set in stone. And last but not least about this village, make sure they feel part of your team. Invite them to your team events and say happy birthday on their birthdays. And if they do something right, make sure you send a note to their manager and thank them because, these people are part of your team. They're helping you. And let me tell you, there is nothing more frustrating if let's say you're in finance, so you report up to the CFO, but most of what you do is actually supporting a different team. So how do you let your manager know about all the good work that you're doing? So we, as sales development leaders, have the accountability or the obligation to do it to keep them happy. The next one is establishing structure and process. So again, if you're just starting your sales development practice or you come into an established organization, structure and process are, table stakes. And I have 2 slides here, again, with some ideas. In terms of standardized process, creating a hiring plan is probably one of the first things I would do because, again, if you're handling exponential growth like we at Okta, you're building basically this machine, right? People are coming and going, and every quarter we have promotions and we have a couple of attritions, and you need to know who's coming and who's going because the biggest the biggest challenge is what you want to do is you want to minimize the impact to pipeline. When I first came in, there was this notion that the SMB leaders needed someone. So okay, well, let's just take 3 people and promote them. But wait, what about all this pipeline? It can create a significant hole in pipeline, right? And so not only we have a very detailed hiring plan, and sometimes it's easier said than done because there's just so many moving pieces, and now we added different locations and different roles, and all of a sudden, someone attrits on the commercial side, and so that creates a chain effect of people moving. So it's very hard to manage, but very important to have that picture, knowing who's coming and who's going at any time. Engaging the senior SDRs in the interview process and training, extremely important. I mean, we have a team of talented, driven individuals, right? They're doing their daily jobs, they're successful at it. They want to be able to show leadership. They want to be able to, to grow professionally as well. And so this is what we found. We found that a lot of them are actually really excited about interviewing and helping us with the recruiting process, which is, again, very detailed. We know exactly. We have an interview kit. We have a mock call. We have all these processes written so that we can create a repeatable and scalable process. Investing in a robust onboarding program. This is something that I can't state enough. I think we have obviously some continued growth to do in that area. I think once you come into a company, that's probably the best time to really spend time understanding the product. I come from a product background. I think if you really want to be relevant, if you really want